so used to picking up stuff that I was picking up the bag when you asked the question. This area of surfing or this area geographically?
Just this area, yeah.
Geographically?
Geographically, yeah.
Well, I guess the ocean is such a profound influence and a force on people that are in the ocean, like surfers or boaties or fishers or yachties or whoever, but also just this affinity that we all have to be in close proximity to the ocean and to water. I think the figures are something like 85% of Australia's population lives within 50 kilometres of the coastline. So when we were really pioneering all the work around Take 3 for the Sea and trying to get people to respond to problems, it was really sort of based upon that idea of you protect what you love. And if we can get people to realise the importance of what they love and therefore how they can actually partake in actions to protect it, then you've got them on the hook for life. And so I think, with surfers, I probably share the same frustrations as Bindi and all the Surfrider crew and many others. You grow up as a surfer, and I've always been that conscious environmentalist surfer, and you sort of look around at your tribe sometimes and you just kind of want to butt your head up against the wall. I couldn't believe that it was so hard to engage this community on the big issues that were threatening what they love so much. Brendan might have some perspectives on this. I feel like we've come a long way and things have got better, but I don't know. It could also be a hell of a lot better than it is now.
I'm going to go quickly to Brendan and then to James.
Working with surfers like herding cats with a fire hose. Surfers are singular.
Do you have to hold the hose when you're doing this herding?
I am able to hold a hose, unlike others. But no, look, I think most surfers are relatively aware of the environment, but whether they will take that extra step and do something for it is a very, moot point.
James?
I think as the State Member of Parliament for Manly, and the seat takes in North Head up to Dee Why, over the past 5 years I've seen an amazing array of talent and insight and organisation come from our local area to support not only marine environment but climate change as well. And I think Tim next to me is being too modest. I mean, he's worked on Ocean Impact Organisation, which have been the founding springboard, I guess, for a lot of entities that have done great work. And for whatever reason, there's something about people here that are just very passionate about the environment. And I think over the past 5 years have had the capacity and the willingness to organise, get professional and get a move on. So the outcome has been amazing, and you see ideas that were generated here on the Northern Beaches and in Manly actually having an impact across the state and across Australia.
Do you think that concern is changing, has changed over time? Have you seen it build over time?
I think as people have become more aware, and as we were talking beforehand, I think the climate change discussion, the battle has been won. Like, if you don't believe that it's important and that we need to bloody get a move on, then you're kidding yourself. What I'd love to see is added onto that the risk that is being placed on biodiversity and nature more broadly. And that's chapter 2 of discussion around climate change, the impact that we're having on our nature. So issues around deforestation, private land clearing, which is a challenge, and equally plastic and the impact that that's having. So we've all got a role, but I think awareness, and I see this as the State's Environment Minister, I think the awareness level is well up there. And we want to go from theory into action.
Yeah. Just on that idea about how we can address nature-based issues as well as climate issues, I'm going to go to Sam and talk a little bit to now about the really innovative and extraordinary businesses that have been started in this area that are saving the world and also, being financially successful. So Sam, thanks for coming from Tasmania all the way this evening. Tell us a little bit about Sea Forest and what you're up to and how you're going.
Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, so I have lived in the Northern Beaches for the last 13 years and had children up here and raised them for the early stage of their life. But it was really through the Climate Council and being a member of the Climate Council that I learned about the importance of action around climate change and the need to do more, and that seaweeds were a solution, and that solution sent me to Tasmania. So I'm no longer on the Northern Beaches, but still my heart is here. But yeah, no, we're down in Tasmania where we've built a seaweed facility growing a special native seaweed called Asparagopsis, which when fed to livestock eliminates methane, which has 28 times the warming impact on the atmosphere of CO2. But, that's been a really long and complicated journey. My background is not in seaweed. It was about trying to drive solutions around climate change with an absolutely enormous issue that we can't roll over and ignore. And I think that's been supported by amazing scientists, and we've made a huge amount of progress in a short amount of time.
I want to go to Tom Stapleton, Make Your Mark Super. So one of the things that's really interesting. Hello, why are you laughing at me?
I'm not, I'm saying, yeah, Tom.
Oh, like you Tom. It's like, because I make a mistake. That's you. You look too young to even have a superannuation account.
Well, we are a young business. I can give you a background. So I'm one of the.
I haven't even asked you the question yet.
Got too excited.
That's how you start a super.
No. I was going to say, I think that there was, I could give you a bit of information. Are you ready?
For sure.
All right. So one of the things that I do social research about Australians, and people under 35 realise, because they probably think, I don't know when I'm going to be able to use those super, they see a real way to send a message about climate by choosing where they put their super funds. So that's what I'm finding. Is that what you're finding? Tell me a little bit about your business. Now you can speak.
Well, exactly. I think everyone knows that the awareness for climate change is now, and I think everyone in this room wants to take action. And what's the best way we can possibly do it? And that's essentially why we created Make Your Mark Super. So we are an Australian sustainable super fund created right here on the northern beaches, and we invest for the good of the community and the planet. And we're looking to change the way we all interact with super, and that's by bringing it to life. So that's by showing you exactly where your money's invested, but also the why. And I guess the fun thing is we're going to show you the impact your money is actually having on a regular basis. And I guess it's something that we've never really experienced before in the superannuation space.
A lot of people think that switching a super is complicated and problematic, and they do worry about it. People my age worry about it. But what would you say to that?
It's a fair enough question. I get that sentiment because we've been so detached from superannuation for so long. And the way I can answer it is you have to think about superannuation being this pool of money that's essentially invested on your behalf, and it can be invested in good industries that positively impact the planet, but also negative industries like the fossil fuel industry. So my sentiment to you guys is if you want to take action on climate, it's switch your super, and it can literally take 2 to 3 minutes, and it can be the single largest contribution you make to the planet.
Clarence, lovely Clarence. I am continuously struck by the untapped potential of the knowledge systems of First Nations people. The debt that we owe to you in terms of how you have managed the land and how much more we need to learn. Tell me about your business, how it is combining that Indigenous knowledge systems in relation to environmental protection, addressing climate change and doing well.
Thanks, Rebecca, and thanks for calling me lovely. I don't think that's the case.
Well,
My wife doesn't think that.
It could go downhill later.
At 1:30 when she's breastfeeding, I don't think she calls me lovely either when I'm sleeping. But look, I don't think you guys owe us a debt in terms of what you don't know about Aboriginal knowledges. I think what I actually, I apologise to you because I feel that you've been lied to. You haven't been told a truth about our culture. You haven't heard a truth about our culture. Bruce Pascoe wrote a book, and then it was gone out there to be defunct about the knowledges that he put forward. And it's like, well, these are knowledges that were written out of European journals and from some of our First Nations people, of course, but a lot of it was pulled from journals of European people. So it's either going, well, they were writing lies about seeing Aboriginal people looking after this country, or what were they writing about and just making up myths. So I guess what are we doing in regards to bush to bowl? What we see is there's an untapped use in regards to our native plants. Across Australia, we've got everything that can help sustain us. We use wheat in terms of flour for our baking, yet we could be using something like Themida, or which is called kangaroo grass, if you have read Bruce Pascoe's book. And Themida, it's a natural grass that really it survives best by being burnt, whereas many of our species that we introduce want to be, each year they need to be recultivated, they need fertilisers, they need lots of water. Themida, its roots are up to 1.5 metres down into the soil. It actually puts nutrients back into the soil rather than depleting. It's a resource, it's one plant that covers all of Australia, and there were these grass belts across Australia which our farmers currently have, but they just don't know how to access it or use it or what to do with it. It's 60% less in carbohydrates than wheat. It's non-gluten, 9 times higher in minerals and nutrients. Like this is, it's like when we talk about superfoods, we have it all here across Australia. But the only thing is we just don't know about it. And the hard thing is where do you access that? And while you're doing that, you're reducing your impact on this earth. You're reducing the water that you use to water that plant. You're reducing the fertilisers that you need, because what do they need? They want the leaf litter to fall from your trees down on the ground to make just compost to go in the ground, rather than you dropping some formulated chemical. So I guess for us, we want you to plant in your own backyard and think about, that thing about how do we change things. Let's start in our own little backyard by introducing a plant that thrives in our backyard and will also sustain us, will provide us with nutrients and look after us. And so that's where we're trying to, change that story. Now, can I just go back, Rebecca, to one last thing? You said, why start in this place? Yeah. For us as Aboriginal people, I've sat down with my elders across Australia, and I really resonate with one of the old women from a little community called Nooka, which is 6 hours southeast of Katherine. And she said, the healing has to start here in Sydney. Now, the healing is, healing of ourselves in terms of the sickness that we're constantly enduring, but it's also the healing in regards to how we look after country. And so my elders are constantly saying, we need to start the healing here in Sydney, because this is where the story started, and this is where the story needs to restart, and we need to change that story. Yeah.
I'm going to ask everybody the same question, except I'm going to end with James and ask him a slightly different question. And it's going to be a nice question, because I'm a nice person. We're nice in the inner west. But I'm going to ask you all the same question, and that's that we have a federal election coming up apparently in the next couple of weeks. And in the work I do on climate, one of the biggest challenges is not that people think that climate change isn't happening, not that they don't want things to happen, but there is a level of what do I do, and some despair, because it feels like we've been talking about this for a while. And so people don't always know about the fantastic solutions we've been talking about this evening. The only way we get out of this is as a community with active hope. So I'd love to go to each of you to say, what are the things that keep you hopeful that we can do this? I'm going to go first to Brendan.
Oh, look, the thing that keeps me hopeful is that I know the community, and I said before that surfers are not really latching on to. They are, by comparison to where we started. God, we've come so far so quickly. The example that everyone uses is recycling. As soon as you made it easy, everyone wanted to do it. We couldn't keep up with the system, and it was never government backed. But when you ask someone to do something that is clearly simple to do to help the environment, without doubt, we do it. And that's all that we need to do, is make it simple. The people want to change, the government's in the way. There's no sort of mystery about it. Make it simple and get follow through.
Tom, Stapleton, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope? That we as an individual have a powerful role when it comes to climate action, and that's through the power of our money. So you can vote with your money every single day. It can be either switching your super away from fossil fuels, or switching your bank, or even your electricity provider. There are so many things we can do as an individual, and we just have to realise that action.
Sam, your business gives me hope. I had an opportunity to come and visit it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm excited about wearing more leather and eating more meat once everybody uses your product. But tell me, not necessarily at the same time, Sam, tell me what gives you active hope.
I think off the back of COP26 and the movement around the IPCC reports that have come out and the work that Surfers for Climate are doing, and also the Climate Council, there's never been a time in the world where people aren't looking for solutions. There's so much innovation in the climate space, more than ever before in history. And I think the fact that we're, more and more electric vehicles are available, there's a transition to renewable energy. I understand that nowhere near as fast enough as what needs to be happening. There are nature-based solutions like seaweed, which are being scaled up at a rapid rate. There is a lot of work happening, and I think what it needs is support from federal government in order to be able to be accelerated so that we can meet or achieve the milestones that the IPCC reports say that we need to. The solutions are out there, and there is hope, and there is a lot of innovation happening. What we need is to accelerate that.
So Clarence, Tim, and then I'll give James the final word. Clarence, where do you get hope for the future?
I guess I get hope really that more people can listen to Aboriginal voice. I really feel that we have a knowledge system that can support us as humans, Mother Earth, in terms of stepping forward. We had the fires, just a couple of years ago, and just devastated plants and animals, and then the amount of, just thinking about the destruction that did to all those plants, that just adds to climate change. We could be using our cool burns, our traditional burning or fire farming practices, yet policy doesn't support that. Policy says every 7 or so years we'll go and do a burn, but that burn it's devastating to the environment, and it ends up to the things that we've just seen in the last couple of years. And I'm sorry for the people who were affected by that, but it is an example of going, if we change policy, we can then change the effect that happens around us. But the thing is, I hope that more people can listen to Aboriginal voice who've been looking after this country for millennia, and add some voice to how we should do things. One other simple little thing is Aboriginal people is just slowing down and being more in the moment, rather than thinking about, we're on this linear trajectory to be over there and have the money that is earned over there, rather than let's sit here and have a look at what we're doing right here and now, how this feels, what it looks like, and let's make a change here, so over there it's better for everyone.
Tim?
So good, Clarence. Kind of a pretty hard response after you've just heard 4 really confounding and strong ones. So, I support all of those, and I was sort of changing my response as we went through the different people. And it turns out my one is, my hope is you, right? Because you are the ones that can help to fill that knowledge gap and build those bridges to support Clarence's mission. You are the one who can vote for the kind of policies that are going to support the innovation, to drive the new technologies, to help be transformative for the future. You are the ones that can go and change your super. What was your one again, Brendan?
I'm saying, get government behind what we want to do.
Yeah. And that, I think, is where I'm going to distill all that down and say, look, in 20 days' time, polls open even sooner, right? Very soon, you are going to put down on paper what you believe in terms of your political representative. And I just spent the day up in Avalon today, where there's this rise of the independents. You've seen it. You've got up there in Mackellar, Sophie Scomps, and she's a doctor, she's a GP. She doesn't necessarily want to be a federal MP, but she's doing it because she went out and listened to the community, and she saw that if it wasn't going to be her, then who was it going to be? And if it wasn't going to be now, then when was it going to be? And so, just watch what's going to happen around this nation in 20 days' time. Thankfully, this guy over here is on the Liberal side of the fence, but he is the best of the bunch and has such authenticity. So we just want to make sure that when we look at what's going to happen in 20, 21 days' time, those people that represent us are doing action on the things that are so critically important. We cannot let this election go the way it could go. It has to go in the way of a climate future where we get the future that we need. So that was my.
So Tim gave us the political stump speech, but I'm going to ask James something slightly different, which is we only really get to vote in election every 3 years. And, you know, or 3 or 4, depending state. And do we count local? We do. We should.
No, we don't. No, we do.
But there must be things that we can do between elections that are effective. For a politician, and you know your people, what are the most effective things that we can do after this federal election, no matter what happens, to make our concerns about climate really listened to by the people who have got the power and got the decision making?
Yeah, it's a good question, and just to clarify, I'm the state MP, so I'm not up for election in 20 days.
This is why he looks relaxed and wise and us.
But and I think as far as our state government goes, we've legislated net zero, that's law. We've legislated Plastic Reduction Act, so in June, single-use plastics will be banned in New South Wales. In November, straws. We've expanded National Park Estate, and to all the people on this panel, I mean, each of you, I think, demonstrated the way in which people in society and community have gotten together, and things are changing. For super, the capital markets have changed. Like, there is a massive drive behind what you're doing. Putting Aboriginal people front and centre in how, so I look after national parks, cultural approach to national parks, front and centre priority of mine. The technology is there, and that is what I think allows us to have great hope that we will deal with the challenges that are in front of us. Between election periods, I think it's about, educating yourself. Politics can seem a super weird spot at the best of times, but it only takes a little bit of time to scratch the surface and understand your role and your opportunity to go and meet with your local MP, whether you share their political view or not, but just say hello to them, write an email, try and get engaged on some way, shape or level. And equally, as a consumer, which we all are, you can direct your money to support institutions and organisations that are sustainable with their focus. I think being organised and having an appreciation for what initiatives, whether it's Surfrider, that you can get behind or support, and picking a few things to make a bit of noise about is really important in between election periods. Yeah.
Can we thank the panel for this evening? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.